And we're now live.
Okay, we're live, are we? Or
Yes, we are.
okay, we're good. Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Committee of the Whole for May 26th. District of Seashore Committee of the Whole. So we have an agenda in front of us. Are there any conflicts or any new business to add to that? Well, does somebody want to make a motion then to accept the agenda? And well, there's a, yep, we got that. Okay, we've got a seconder there. So let's get underway then. First item on the agenda is 5.1, COVID-19 Safe Restart Fund Grant Policy.
Excuse me, Chair, we need a resolution to adopt the agenda as presented.
Let's have a resolution to adopt the agenda.
So I think we just need to vote on that. You did it first, we moved and seconded,
Right.
so we just need
Yeah,
all in
okay.
favor.
All in favor? Perfect. Here we go. I didn't. Okay. So we'll go back to 5.1 again. COVID-19 Safe Restart Fund Grant Policy. Ms. Shabona Smith from the Arts and Cultural Communications Coordinator will lead us off.
Thank you. So before you is a report regarding the proposed policy for our new COVID-19 Safe Restart Grant for local nonprofits and charities. You will recall that at the May 12th committee meeting, this was brought forward, and we are bringing it forward to you again with two significant changes of note. One is that the committee has recommended that a larger amount be allocated for this fund. So the original proposal was for $50,000. It has since been increased to $100,000. And the second significant change is that the previous iteration of this policy had a $5,000 maximum per grant applicant. And this new version has a $10,000 maximum. In addition to those changes, any other changes that the committee would see fit to make, you can do so before this policy is adopted by council.
Are there any questions then for? Yes, Matt, go ahead, please.
Yeah, so we discussed this last 2 weeks ago, and I brought forward a motion at that time that we wanted some time to think on. So hopefully everyone has had a chance to think on it, and I'm going to present it again. So I'd like to make a motion that item 4.2 be amended to add, or it currently reads the maximum amount awarded to any organization is $10,000, and I'd like to amend it to add except for projects that address an issue of paramount community concern as determined by council.
Okay. Any other comments from anyone or any ideas?
Is there a seconder for that recommendation?
Is there a seconder for Matt's?
Yeah, I'll second it.
Councillor Toth?
Thank you. I'm not in favor of doing this because I don't think that we should give organizations that yeah, I don't want to call it false hope, but I'm going to call it false hope anyways, that they could apply for a project of more than $10,000 because they find a way that it fits some urgent need that we feel exists. I think, you know, setting that maximum amount to $10,000 allows an organization to apply and have their application judged against the other applications based on its merits. So that's all I really wanted to say.
Very good. Any other comments from anyone? Councillor McLean?
Yeah, so I recognize what Councillor Toth has said. I think we need to look at, be open to ideas coming forward from the community. So I think I have some idea of what may come forward. I don't know what will come forward. So I want to try and make the process as fair as possible. So I want people to kind of look at the requirements here, think about, can they maybe meet this concern? Can they meet the other requirements, which we're not waiving any of the other requirements. Everything, the rest of this policy is still going to stand. So I want to see what the community can bring forward. And I think that's the most transparent way forward. And then it's for council to decide what we do with it. At the end of the day, it remains our decision.
Any further thoughts or ideas? Okay. Then we'll have a
Councillor
vote on it.
Lamb, Chair,
Yes.
I would agree with Councillor McLean. I know that there are a few things in the community that will be potentially making a request for additional funds. And yes, it does come down to us in the end. If we have 4 applications, if we have 25 applications, we're going to have to make some decisions around how we allocate the funds. So it might be that something comes forward. I mean, one of them that may come forward, don't know, but there was a request under the poverty reduction plan, potentially for a community planner. What does that look like? You know, social planner, sorry, a social planner to deal with some of those social issues. If that comes forward, given that this is our plan that is, you know, is recommending this, is that something that we would want to entertain? Don't know. I guess it's going to depend on who else comes forward, but I'd like to have us have the flexibility inside of this without having to make an exception to a policy that we just approved to be able to fund any of those projects that we are in support of. So it doesn't say we have to, you know, step outside of this, but it gives us the flexibility to be able to do that.
Any further comments? I'm sorry, I can only see like 4 people on my screen, so if I miss somebody, it's not intentional. Anyways, so is there any, we all okay here? Or?
So
Yeah.
I guess I'd look to Ms. Frank about this. So Councillor McLean is suggesting that we modify 4.2 in the criteria, but we don't actually have the policy or the, you know, the program on the floor yet for voting on. So how would you suggest we move this forward?
Thank you, Your Worship. You could make the amendment now and then adopt the policy as amended.
Okay. So Councillor Lamb, there is a recommendation on the floor to modify 4.2, is that correct? 4.1.
4.2.
4.2.
Yeah. So, okay, to we vote on this. So it's just as everybody in favor, or anybody in favor, raise your hands. Okay, there you go. I'll vote for that. Okay, anybody against it? Okay, do you want that recorded?
That's not
Council?
necessary. Thank you.
Yeah, okay, very good. So does the administration, and do you, I guess it would be
So I'll make a motion that we adopt the policy 2.5.7 COVID Safe Restart Grant for nonprofits and charities as amended.
there's a seconder. Okay, all in favor? Okay, passes. Okay. Yes. Yes, Mayor Sagers.
Yes, so I noticed one of the items in here was closing date that was highlighted in yellow. Dr. Ms. Smith, do you need us to indicate that, or will you just put in a date? What would you like us to do?
Yeah, previously we had a date that was approximate, that would allow applicants approximately 4 weeks to submit an application, assuming that we were to put this information out to the public as soon after the next council meeting as possible. If that is not what council is hoping for, then if the committee could suggest a date, sorry, I don't have the council calendar in front of me, but we could get the information online within a day or so after this is adopted by council.
So our
And
next
then-
council meeting is June 2nd.
Okay, and so then providing a at least 4-week window is what I would recommend to allow people to put together their applications and submit, but we can, that date is flexible. I wouldn't recommend a date less than 4 weeks.
Okay. What would council like to do? Yes, Councillor Toth.
So just looking at a calendar here real quick, it looks like the default closing date will be July 2nd, which is a Friday. And if that's the case, I'm perfectly fine with that date, as long as it's not going to provide too much of a burden on staff at the front desk, given that that's also the tax deadline.
It's also the day after a holiday, so might I suggest that we give people until the following Monday, the 5th?
Is everybody okay with it? July the 5th as a closing date? So do we need a motion to do that, or can we just have Councillor Toth?
Let's make it official. I'll make a motion that the closing date for this program be July 5th, 2021.
We've got a seconder for that. All in favor? Okay, that passes. From where I got 4 votes in front of me, so we're good to go. Okay. Okay. Are we,
Thank you.
good. Okay, so are we finished with the 5.1? Everybody's happy with that? Okay, we can move on to 5.2. First quarter department progress reports.
I'll move receipt of the report.
We got a second for that? Perfect. Okay, all in favor? Here we go. Thanks.
Good afternoon. Through the chair, we have provided several reports from different departments here, from administration, finance, planning, development, and engineering and operations. And we don't have the intention to go through each item, but if council has any questions, we are glad to answer them.
Okay. Council, any questions for our team here? Councillor McLean.
Yeah, let's start on page 33 to the communications department. So it's mentioned that we've worked with Sunshine Coast Tourism to update the kiosk outside the visitor center and plans for a kiosk in Davis Bay. So I'm wondering if you could just, what are those kiosks, and are these related to the digital screens that we placed a few around town last year or 2 years ago?
No, these would not be digital kiosks. We have one outside the Visitor Information Center right now. It has on one side, it has a map of Seashell that's artwork, and the other side, it has a super map. And then there's a spot at the bottom of the kiosk that's like a little bulletin board behind a plexiglass. So we're changing out the super map, which is quite dated, We're finding out about cleaning the artwork because we want to leave it there. But we're going to change the map and provide a few more highlights and also insert some QR codes now that the one thing that came out of COVID was that everybody knows how to use a QR code now. So we can have QR codes on the bottom of the map that will link directly to Sunshine Coast tourism, places to eat, places to stay, places to hike, things like that. And then we want to change out the bottom and make little plexiglass holders where we can insert brochures. So if you want to take something with you, we can have that there, and that'll help to serve our travelers when they're there after hours. We have hopes that we might be able to put a similar kiosk with the map on one side and some brochures in Davis Bay and in Friendship Park, but that request has actually not come to council yet.
Okay. And then if I can, through the chair, just the second part of that question was just how are the digital kiosks going?
The digital kiosks have had a little glitch. They're not, they've become a little bit pixely. So we have a technician working on them, getting them cleaned up, and then we're going to get them back out where they belong. One in Trail Bay Mall and one was in Gourmet Girl in Davis Bay. And we are sourcing a location for the third one.
Okay, thank you.
Good. Okay. Any other questions for staff?
I'll just jump in since I assume the chair can't see me. It's not specifically listed in here, but it did dawn on me earlier today when I was reviewing this, that the respiratory clinic that's running out of the Seaside Center, I believe the original motion was that we would be reviewing it and revisiting it in May, and here we are towards the end of May. Just wondering how things are going. Are they planning on shutting down again for the summer? Where are they at?
I have a meeting with some administration staff at VCH set for next week. At this time, they indicate that they're still testing quite a number of people a day, but I'm hoping to get some indication from them if they have an alternative venue, because we've got a lot of people wanting to book that space. Also, the Visitor Information Center is planning on opening on June 16th. And it would be ideal to not have them situated right beside a COVID testing clinic.
Perfect. Any other questions from council?
I'll jump in with the corporate admin question, page 43 on the agenda. It mentions here that there have been an increase in the Freedom of Information and Privacy Act requests. In particular, I'll quote here, a large number of requests relate to the building inspection files and building plans for home renovations being carried out. So I'm wondering if we have any indication of why that increase may be occurring.
Through you, your worship, we can only guess, but also based on conversations with building inspection, it would appear that it has somewhat to do with the whole COVID and people working from home and just being at home more, that it has led to people carrying out renovations that were maybe on their to-do list to do at some point, but this became a perfect opportunity to do those. So again, we're guessing, and also what we've heard anecdotally from other local governments is basically the same trend. People are just home more. They've got they're working from home. Maybe they want to renovate a corner of their house to be better suitable to work from home in an office, or children to do school work from home. So again, we're only guessing, but we think that's partially what it has to do with.
Okay, then maybe I'll just ask this in a slightly different way. What are these, like when it's coming through corporate and admin, is it historical files more so? Or like, are they trying to look up old building inspections, old building plans? Is that what the increase on the workload is that is mentioned here?
Through you, your worship. Yes, we're talking about existing building inspection files. Those are permanent records. We actually call them folio files, and a folio is a property file. So any building activity or other activity actually on a property file are kept in that location, and they are permanent records under our retention and disposal policy. Those are permanent records. So it entails at times going to our archives and retrieving actual rolled up plans, building plans, and then scanning certain sections of them. In terms of the building inspections themselves, we need to review those to ensure there's no privacy issues, that people's phone numbers, et cetera, aren't in the occupancy, sorry, not the occupancy, the building inspection reports that building inspection prepares. So we need to go through them for that purpose. So we're mostly talking, yes, archived records.
Perfect. Thank you.
Any further questions from council?
Okay, I'll just go ahead. On page 42. So SDBA Business Improvement Area Bylaw, given it's on here, I'm assuming it's probably going to show up in front of us soon.
Yes, we anticipate. I've got all the information now from working back and forth with SDBA. It's a matter of pulling it all together into a staff report and preparing the bylaw. As of now, in my work plan, I anticipate bringing it forward to the second meeting in June or first meeting in July, but I'm working towards second meeting in June at this time. And that will be a full report to council with you know, and then we need, and then seeking, so that would be a full report seeking council's approval to proceed,
right?
With the bylaw and the process.
Okay, timing inside of that, we have to have 30 days, is it, for the community to, or the affected area to indicate whether or not they're in favor? Basically, if they're not in favor, correct? Just because it's
correct. It's called a petition for service, but it's anecdote, or you know, it's informally, think of it as a counter petition.
Right.
So once the bylaw would get 3 readings, the legislation requires that we send an actual mail out, a notice with in an envelope with a stamp and mailed out to the property owners that are within the business improvement area boundaries. And then there is the 30-day time for them to respond. And then a further report would come forward to council after that with the results of that. And then, you know, depending on the results, it would be in front of council to adopt the BIA bylaw. And this bylaw, as I mentioned in my report, the current one expires at the end of this year. So we're fine for 2021, but we would want to have the new bylaw in place for 2022 before we finalize financial plan for 2022.
Okay, does this have to go to the province for anything? Any kind of approval on this?
No, this one doesn't.
Okay.
It's under a separate section of, it's not the same as an alternative approval process. It's actually under a completely different section in the community charter that relates to petition for services, and it's its own special section. So it does not need that authority is given to council through the community charter.
Thank you. Okay, also on page 42, it talks about the on-base records management implementation. And it indicated that an RFP went out and a company has been selected. Have they actually started working on this, or where are we in the process?
Yes, they have. We have just this week finalized giving them working with Opus, our IT contractor. We have finalized giving WestX access to the records and our network that they will need to have. We've had a couple of project meetings. We have forwarded WestX as much background as we can in terms of, you know, a spreadsheet as to how far we've gotten with on-base file transfer at this point, and we're moving forward. We should, like I say, right now they're at the information gathering stage, meeting staff, reviewing all the information we've sent them. And then the last piece was getting them the access, which should be completed this week. And then we'll be moving forward. We'll be having project team meetings regularly and bringing in other department staff as needed. Our project team is made up of our records coordinator, our corporate services admin assistant, our director of finance, and myself.
Okay, and what are we looking at actually digitizing? So let's see, we did some of the engineering files, we've done public art. Or what are we looking at addressing here? Are we looking at the archives that are in the old building? Or are we looking at more current stuff? What are we looking at doing with this, or all of it?
Well, part of the plan, which is just under development right now, is we've asked WestEx to include that in their plan, in their recommendations and plan. In other words, how far back do we go on archives? And, you know, we're going to be making that determination as we move forward. But with our permanent records, for example, the building inspection files and the plans that we were just discussing earlier, we plan to have all those digitized. We are separately looking at moving forward with a program that would accept and allow building inspectors to do the review of plans digitally. So up till now, we haven't been doing that, but our chief building inspector, chief building officer is working with that sort of parallel, and to make sure that that does line up with our on-base plan. But at the end of the day, we're doing both. We're looking at digitizing everything that needs to be digitized, including our more current operating files, and coming up with what our policy will be, our implementation policy, into how far back we go. We already know that we're not going to digitize everything. A good example is correspondence general. You know, how far back are we going to keep correspondence general? And we're actually working, we use, as council is aware, we use the Local Government Management Association records management system. And that includes a policy for retention and disposal. And that's been created by LGMA with the input from legal. So when it comes to retention disposal, we follow that, and with that having legal overtones in terms of what should be kept and what doesn't need to be. So part of it, but the plan is by December 31st, everything will be digitized. Paper records will have been sent out for destruction, and that's the plan, and that's the schedule we're working from.
Thank you. Councillor Toth and I are both kind of grinning here because we just did a session. We just literally just before this session, we did a session with the regional district around records and record retention, and they were talking about LGMA and the policies that determine how long you keep different kinds of records. So it's good to know. All right.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
Cool. Councillor Toth.
Thank you. A couple of questions for our engineering department. I noticed that on Trail Avenue, it looks like the contractor's demobilized. And so my first question is, do we know when they'll be back to recommence work along that that section that still needs the majority of the work done?
Yes, so we were waiting for an archaeological permit from the province. My understanding is we received that last week. So I'm expecting a return to work from the contractor in the next week. They're just working out those details, but you should see action happening pretty soon there.
Excellent news, thank you. My second question is, we gave early approval for the replacement of 6 maintenance holes on the sewer collection system. I noticed that there has been asphalt cut and replaced around a couple of them on Trail Avenue. I'm just wondering if they've all been replaced, if some have been replaced, if that was just preliminary work, that cutting.
I believe they're still coming to site and they will be replaced. It all has to be done together. We obviously don't want to go in and rip up new asphalt and do it again. So it'll all be staged in a way that will reduce any need for rework. So I believe they're still on order and set to arrive. But I can get back to you after I talk to the manager of engineering services about what the exact status is.
Okay, no, it was, like I said, I'd seen two of them had been asphalt cut around, and they'd done a patch job around a couple of them. So wanted to know if we'd got an opportunity to replace a couple of them already, but it sounds like the answer to that's no. So thank you.
Okay. Yes, Councillor McLean.
All right, we're on to engineering. So I have a couple questions that aren't contained within the update. So that's a few reports that have been kind of sitting on the table for a little while. So just looking for an update on the subdivision bylaw, the liquid waste management plan, and the Davis Bay sewer functional plans. Where are we at with those three?
So the first one again was
the subdivision bylaw.
Okay, so through the chair, the subdivision bylaw is advancing slowly in the background. Obviously, we've had a new manager of development engineering and sustainability come on board. And this is one of the things on her to-do list is to advance this. I think there's been a lot of things that have happened on the sanitary sewer side with the WRC. We recently had the supervisor there move on to another municipality. So she's been working out of the WRC, helping that crew, and also with discussions on the future expansion of the sanitary sewer system. She's been focused on that, but it is something we're advancing, and we recently finished the request for supplier qualifications, which shortlisted a bunch of consultants that could help us with this type of work. And so the idea is that we'll have a short list that we can move pretty quickly on lining up the right consultant to help with this file, as well as other files on the planning front as well. So perhaps some assistance with other major things like the OCP or STR bylaws that need to be looked at. So the work's been happening. It's just one of those balls that we've been juggling simultaneously in the air with many other balls right now, but it is moving ahead. With respect to the functional plan for Davis Bay, Selma Park, and Wilson Creek, we were advancing with that particular project. My understanding is it was put on hold prior to me arriving here because of COVID and issues around being able to conduct some of the stakeholder engagement that would have needed to be happening as part of that study. Now with discussion underway on some other options for servicing Wilson Creek and us exploring those different options, I think we will be looking at that draft functional plan again, however, in the context of these new recent developments that are happening. So that's where that's at. But they are all moving ahead, and just perhaps not at the rate that we would want, but I believe with council support in approving a new engineering project manager, as well as a GIS and asset management technician, that a lot of these studies that were on the back burner are going to gain more momentum, and especially as we come out of COVID, with our ability to do more stakeholder engagement in the traditional way, should facilitate that as well.
Okay, and then just the last one was the liquid waste management plan.
Yeah, the liquid waste management was parked, and my understanding is for similar reasons that the functional plan was also parked back when it was underway, and then COVID happened. I think going forward, though, I'm looking to staff to provide a recommendation to council on whether we proceed with the liquid waste management plan or pursue different standards, treatment standards under the municipal wastewater regulation. So it might not be in the district's best interest to proceed with the liquid waste management plan. But however, as an interim, though, we have reconstituted the Seashell Sewer Commission facility, which is the instrument that's currently approved by the province for us to do long-term collaborative wastewater planning. So That is under the old, I believe, the old liquid waste management regime that was in place. So we're trying to move to a new one, but we've reconstituted the old one to at least get the conversation going and have some dialogue around wastewater planning.
Perfect. I look forward to that conversation on the liquid waste management plan when it comes forward.
Any other questions from council?
Yes.
Go ahead, Mayor Seegers.
Okay, since we're on engineering, we'll come back, we'll circle back to finance and planning, but we're at engineering right now. So let's continue on there. Any idea when we will see a proposal come forward to us for airport lighting?
I believe that's coming. I have to check with the manager of engineering services. He's drafting the report right now on the cost for that. I believe he's shooting for either, well, at the latest will be the next committee of the whole. But hopefully if he gets it done, we can get it on to the next regular council meeting. But it is, we have all the information in place to issue a report on that.
Councillor Scott had his hand up about that.
Sanath told me that it would be June 16th council meeting.
Okay. Cool. It's just on your radar. That's awesome. Because I mean, we've got you talking about the airport in here. I know the paving, etc. Any word on tractor and the insurance piece?
I will defer to the director of finance on the status of our insurance claim.
Yep, they've agreed to dollar values to pay the district out. And so we're just waiting for that.
Okay. And I have one more for engineering. Ops center. Where are we at with the ops center?
Yes, your worship, that's a great question. I have a meeting tomorrow with the owner's representative. We have zeroed in on a owner's representative for the project who's going to facilitate the building of this and work with us to make sure it's done using proper project management protocols. And so once the owner's rep is in place, the next step is to have meetings with the contractor to look at the costs of the op center. I think with the presentation provided by the Logging Truckers Association at the previous council meeting, we're all well aware that the cost of building materials has gone up quite a bit since the last estimate was prepared. So lumber costs are up quite a bit. So we just, given the time that's elapsed and the AAP, we just need to be confident on what the revised construction numbers would be, and having an owner's representative in place that is experienced in buildings is important for us to get a third-party opinion on any revised costs that come from the contractor. So once we're happy with those revised costs, then and that they're realistic given what the market conditions are for construction material costs today, then we will proceed with moving with that. But the project is still moving ahead, and our intent is we'd like to see it up within construction happening within the next 3 months, shovels in the ground. So the pieces are coming together.
So does that mean that the plan is now finalized for the building, or once we actually get costs, it's kind of going to be a back and forth kind of thing, depending on what the cost is based on building material, how that will impact a final design?
Yeah, so we have a conceptual design, and then that would need to be taken to detailed design, and we would have to agree on the detailed design, and our owner's rep would be a part of the review team that looks at the detailed design. And during the detailed design process, we're going to look at options to see if we can save costs in certain areas, and also look at designing the building in such a way that it could facilitate future expansions or energy efficiency upgrades. If other funding programs are available, 1, 2, 3 years down the road, to have this building built in such a way that we can be able to adapt it to future needs.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilor McLean.
All right, this one's within the engineering report, but it's actually going to go to our HR manager. So bottom of page 60, it mentions that the Public Works Department is currently down 2 staff members due to medical leave. So I'm wondering if we could just speak to what mitigative measures we're taking. Do we have casual staff to fill in? Because that's a pretty big loss for Public Works.
Yes, so thank you very much, Councillor McLean. Currently we have 2 of our operators that are acting in the position. So we had a vacancy of a chief wastewater operator since I've started. And so currently we have an employee filling in for that role. And then for the incumbent that we lost for the wastewater supervisor, we have another employee that is currently acting in the role. I also have sent an offer letter off to someone today for one of the positions, the chief wastewater operator. And I am, myself and Megan Lee are meeting with the WRC team once a week just to check in and make sure that they are feeling connected. And then anything that they need is followed up with Director Dillon.
Okay, so that's great news on the job offer, but the question was actually on Public Works, not wastewater.
Oh, sorry.
Still a good answer, so thank you.
If we're gonna get there eventually, then that's 2 birds with 1 stone, I guess. So for Public Works, sorry, can you repeat the question, Councilor McLean?
Yeah, so it mentions that 2 Public Works staff members are out due to medical leave.
Yes.
So I'm wondering what mitigative steps we're taking and if we have any casual support filling in there possibly.
Yes. So for one of them, we have backfilled all of the positions, and one was a leave, and one of them left to go to a different department to backfill another department's leave. Sorry, that sounds a little bit confusing. So they are both leaves, but not both leaves within Public Works. And so we have backfilled both positions. We hired somebody new, and then we used a casual. We increased their hours.
Perfect, thank you. I just saw 2 out of our small Public Works staff gone, and that was concerning. So
yes, so they're at full staff again.
Good.
Through the chair to Councillor McLean, it may seem like we're down staff in Public Works, but relative to where we were 3 or 4 months ago, we're actually better off now than we were then. So not to say that we can't always use an extra body there, but on that front anyways, we're looking better than we were a few months ago.
Great to hear.
Good. Councillor Toth.
Thank you. While we have our manager of HR with us, and maybe you can't provide an update here, but I'm just wondering where we're at with the IT manager.
Thank you for your question, Councillor Toth. We have an offer out as well, and we just had to make some amendments as negotiations happen with any offer. And I suspect to have a signed offer letter within the next 24 hours and a potential start date right now of July 5th with some remote working beforehand. And the gentleman comes from Yellowknife and comes with a wealth of experience and was a top choice for all of the panelists. So we were really lucky with the recruitment and lots of great candidates out there.
Cool. Okay.
Lindsay, do you want to talk about the summer students too while we're at it?
Let's keep rolling here. If anyone would like to know about the summer students, I will now talk about that. I'll first speak to parks, just it's a little more cut and dry. We did not receive the cannabis summer student funding for parks this year. However, we have funding for 2 with the hope that we would have a grant. And so we have used the 2 that we would have with grants to hire 1 summer student. And that person started with us last week or this week, because anyways, yes, yesterday. And they come with a lot of experience, and we're really excited to have them down there. As for engineering, we did receive the grant funding for 2 engineering summer students, and we have received a number of applications that both of our engineering managers are currently reviewing, and we hope to have 2 bodies in those seats within the next couple of weeks.
Very good. Good. Any more questions from council?
Yes. So
Yes.
Dr. Bonnie Henry and the Premier yesterday said we're going to start opening things up. So I know that space is at a premium. You know, where we, even these 2 summer students, where are we going to put them? So I know that the finance department has been reconfigured. We have the new furniture in there, which allows more of the staff to come in and work. How do you see this kind of rolling out over the next while with staff and, you know, do we need to share cubicles? Like, what is this going to look like? Do you have any idea?
Well, Your Worship, I can field a part of that response, and Lindsay could probably add additional content after, but we're starting to get creative on spacing. So we are looking at things like the option of maybe setting up additional cubicles at the WRC. There's some space there. What a great opportunity it would be for a young engineering student to be able to work at a real live and functioning wastewater treatment plant. So trying to think out of the box on that front. So maybe a future report to council on that might be coming. But in addition to that, I know Lindsay and Director Douglas are thinking about this issue. So I'll defer to them for the rest.
Thank you, Director Dillon. On Monday, I'll be doing a presentation to the senior leadership team with consultation from the directors on how we're moving forward. Right now, it looks like the hybrid plan that was approved here in past will move forward, and we'll be looking at 2 days a week per staff member to be in the office, and which will create a rotating schedule that will never have us over that 60% threshold that we were in when we were in phase 3 back in the fall. So we can do this sort of slow transition and also accommodate our new staff.
Okay. And then opening hours to the public. Is that something that we'll be looking at as well?
Yes, that's also on the table for my presentation. So I'll have a number of options. We're looking at both of those. It could be helpful to change those slightly to accommodate for lunch leaves, et cetera, to make sure that we can have enough staff in the building, but also be efficient.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any more questions for staff from council? No, okay, I've just got one. I'm just wondering this is for the planning department, I guess. I was just wondering what's going on with the Lions complex. Yeah.
So we don't have a representative from the planning department here today. There's been a few things going on just personally with a couple of them. So we will get back to you on that.
Okay.
I can tell you what the Lions have told me. This is probably about a month old, but I reached out to them because I've been having members of the community asking about that. What they indicated was that they have an agreement for funding with BC Housing because of and they were looking to do modular construction at that time. Because of increase in construction costs, BC Housing had requested that they re-tender the project to see which would be better, if it would be stick built or modular building. And they are still, the plan was, when I talked to them about a month ago, was still to have shovels in the ground by July, but they needed to do this for BC Housing. They're done with us. We have done what we need to do with them. So once BC Housing has given them the go ahead, then they're going to be moving forward with construction.
That's good. I look forward to some other information coming forward to make sure that they're moving ahead. It's been a long time. Yeah. Okay, so
I'm going to just ask a quick question of our chief building official, because I saw him on the attendee list here. So speaking of the Lions and the cost of construction, what have you, I know that there are some jurisdictions that have looked at structural steel stud for doing more than just an office building. And I know that I've sent you an email asking sort of some of this. I'm just wondering if anybody locally has started to look at or ask questions about the usability of structural steel stud rather than wood in construction projects here.
And through the chairperson to Councillor Toth, I'm not aware of anybody proposing it at this time or there being anything more than inquiries. Just for the committee's knowledge, the step code provisions do make it somewhat challenging to use steel studs as they incorporate a lot of what's called thermal bridging by means that conditioned air from the interior of the building would connect through the studs to the cladding material and allow a heat transfer on a scale which is much greater than timber construction. But that can be mitigated by some outside air barriers, pre-manufactured wall panels, or going to a 2-wall system. But the short answer, Councillor, I'm not aware of anything yet.
Okay, thank you.
I have something additional to add through the chair to Councillor Toth. Is I did pose this specific question about the operations center that we plan to build, given the price of lumber. And initially there was some interest from the contractor, but after doing their own feasibility study internally, found out it was still not feasible to go ahead with steel stud and using traditional timber framing was still the way to go.
Well, boy.
Sorry, just to follow up to that then, is that because of cost? I mean, I know steel has gone up a lot in the last while as well. So are they saying it's cheaper, or is it because of the points that Mr. Nihis talked about with the energy transfer, et cetera, that it would be more costly in the end to create the building the way we need it to do for energy efficiency?
Your worship, I didn't drill down to the rationale.
Okay.
I just took their feasibility assessment, but now with an owner's rep, I could probably get another opinion on that, on whether there is feasibility of steel stud. There's pros and cons, obviously, and the chief building official, Mr. Nias, has obviously outlined the pros and cons.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So is council pretty comfortable with where we are? Lots of questions for our staff. Okay. And anyways, I guess that's it for our meeting for today. Anyways, so I guess is there any questions from, is there anybody in the
So
council?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
seconded.
Seconder? Let's get out of here. Okay,